At this time, we have a presentation by Chris Larose, Director of Public Utilities, on the sewer assessment process. Chris, the mic is yours. Thank you.
Now it's beyond my, whoa.
Oh,
That works.
must have been a delay.
All right. Ooh. Thank you. Appreciate the time tonight to understand the process that we have with sewer assessments, and we're going to provide an opportunity to explain how we got here and where we would hope to go. Well over 1,000 sewer customers have had these assessments placed on their properties over the years from sewer projects dating back to the 1990s and early 2000s. Currently, we have 240 customers with active accounts, and of these, just 130 are delinquent at this time. We need to resolve this issue, which goes back in some cases more than 25 years, in a way that is transparent and equitable for both customers who have been paying all along and those who are delinquent on their accounts. Payments with existing penalties would be very, very difficult for the 130 customers with outstanding balances, and something that NPU is working very hard to avoid. The ordinances we are asking the council to pass tonight would save 130 residents hundreds of thousands of dollars of interest payments that would otherwise be due imminently. Tonight in the audience we have Amanda Gregoire, who is the primary contact for collections on the sewer assessments and the person who makes the payment arrangements for NPU. Amanda is sitting right here. And we also have invited our tax attorney, Joe Jureko, who will go and provide a detailed presentation of the history and the required ordinances we would like to pass tonight. Joe?
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, Mayor Nystrom, members of the council. My name is Joe Jureko. I'm an attorney at Murtha Cullina in Hartford, and we represent NPU. So we're here tonight to talk about sewer benefit assessments and how essentially we got to this situation that brought about these proposed ordinances on your agenda this evening. So we'll start by just describing what a sewer benefit assessment is. It's a charge that a water pollution control authority or a municipality, in this case an entity such as NPU, charges against a property in order to recover the cost of capital expenditures for the acquisition, construction, or renovation of upgrading wastewater collection, conveyance, or treatment facilities. Although SBAs are collected like property taxes, they are different in some ways, and specifically in that unlike property taxes, which are usually spread across a municipality, SBAs are only charged on the specific properties which they benefit. So typically it's a street that a sewer line is extended to, a subdivision, and in some cases single properties. A property that is served by a sewer facility is benefited because it is either connected to the system and using it actively, or it merely has access to it, which increases the property's value in and of itself. So at the end of the day, everyone recognizes that sewer benefit assessments are costly. They're substantial, and that's because sewer facilities are costly to construct. At one point, there was a study done back in the 90s about sewer construction in Connecticut municipalities, and they came up with a figure of it typically costs $100 per linear foot to construct, and that's in 1990s dollars. So it is quite substantial, and as a result, SBAs, when they're placed on a property that's benefited, are substantial. Sewer projects might be financed by grants, cash contributions, or by other means, but more often they're financed by loans, bond issues, or other debt instruments, such as was the case in Norwich. The assessment placed on each property is typically calculated by dividing the total cost of the project amongst the benefited properties, the properties served. And then each property gets assessed that amount. Property owners can pay off the SBAs in one lump sum payment, or they can pay off in installment payments. And both of those are provided for by statute. And those statutes that govern are specifically codified in section 7-249 et sequitur, and the installment payments are allowed by 7-253, which is really one of the focal statutes at issue for tonight. So a little bit about how we got here. Over the past 30 years or so, the city issued GO bonds to fund sewer system expansions in various parts of the city in accordance with Connecticut statute and the city ordinances. NPU placed SBAs on benefited properties throughout the city, and property owners had the opportunity to appear at hearings, which are provided for by statute, to contest the amount of the assessment if they chose to do so. Property owners were then given the opportunity to pay off the SBAs in installment payments pursuant to 7-253. Many property owners in the city chose to pay off the SBAs through these installment payments for understandable reasons. As I said, they are substantial to pay off in one lump sum. However, there were property owners who did so, but there were many who paid off or chose to pay off through the installment payment plans. When a property is assessed and subject to an installment payment plan, however, a lien is placed on the land records, and that's also provided for by General Statute 7-253. And that lien remains on the property unless and until the principal balance plus interest is paid off. Initially, the SBAs were implemented under payment plans with installments set out over 20 years, but the operative statute now allows for payment plans up to 30 years. Over time, NPU has been acting as the city's designee and has been responsible for billing and collecting the sewer benefit assessments and the installment payments when a lien was recorded on a benefited property. Since the SBA installment payment plans started and the corresponding liens were recorded, many installment payments, for whatever reason, were not ultimately paid or collected. This could be due to a number of reasons, and this is not an exhaustive list, but most likely this resulted from the fact that properties were sold or otherwise changed title, and despite being required by statute, the SBAs were not paid off at that time. Property owners may have passed away, and new property owners, upon acquiring title, didn't pay off the SBA and it remained on the land records. Or property owners may have just failed to make payments, and also collection efforts may have been inconsistent. But it remains, it bears emphasis that these installment payments and the SBAs ultimately remain due and owing because they run with the land, not with the customer. So if a customer sells the property, it remains on, the lien remains on the subject property. And just a note about the general obligation bonds, they were used to fund capital cost of the sewer project, and the installment payments go towards debt service. So the main problem, and really one of the bases for the ordinances that are before you tonight, is the problem of interest. As of September 15th of this year, there were 243 property owners still with an SBA balance, which amounted to a total amount of $1.21 million, which includes billed bonded interest, but not the delinquent interest, which we've also called penalty interest. Of these property owners, 131 are delinquent in their SBA installment payments, and these latter owners make up for a collective outstanding balance of $625,000. And again, that includes billed bond interest, but not the delinquent penalty interest. By statute 7-254, any SBA or installment payment thereunder not paid within 30 days of the due date becomes delinquent, and it shall be subject to interest, the delinquent interest rate, also called penalty interest, as set forth in the property tax statutes. And as perhaps some of you know, that is 18% per year, 1.5% per month. So it's quite steep. This means that some of the above-mentioned 130 or so property owners who stopped making payments, in some cases years ago, interest technically has been accruing at that rate, 1.5% per month, meaning that the outstanding balance is quite substantial. So this clearly, it's an issue that we think the ordinances proposed tonight would address, in part, at the very least. And just as a general matter, we have asked ourselves, what now? So there are, unfortunately, the statutes do not provide much in the way of statutory authorization allowing delinquent interest to be waived on property taxes. There are limited circumstances, but admittedly there are not many. But at the end of the day, the statutes also require that the principal balance of the SBAs must be paid off. And that's just as a matter of debt service, the obligations have to be paid off, and even if it's, at this point in time. If the delinquent interest, the penalty interest at the rate of 18% per annum, as required by the property tax statutes, cannot be waived, this could probably put some customers in very significant financial distress. And so to collect the principal balance, such in accordance with the statutes, but also to recognize that there are only limited situations where delinquent interest can be waived, we have proposed the options that are codified in the proposed ordinances tonight. And we have basically two solutions here. Solution number one. General Statutes 12-145 allows unbilled delinquent penalty interest that is accrued on property taxes, here SBAs, to be waived if the tax collector and the assessor jointly determine that the delinquency is the result of an error and not the result of any action or omission by the taxpayer, in this case the property owner. Although there likely are property owners who purposefully stop making installment payments on the SBAs, there also likely are some who may have intended to pay, but because of some inconsistent billing, failure to receive notice, they just stopped. And so certainly we want to take those customers into account, and we don't want to penalize them with an 18% delinquent interest rate. When most of these sewer lines were installed in the 90s and the 2000s, the collections and communications, for whatever reason, were not entirely consistent or effective. At the end of the day, though, the SBAs must be collected, and it's much more likely that property owners would be willing to pay off the balance if they are not penalized with the 18% per year delinquent interest. So NPU therefore asks the Council to enact an ordinance allowing NPU to waive the delinquent penalty interest that is accrued on these roughly 131 SBA accounts and that are subject to these installment payment plans. Going forward, however, if the ordinance passes, NPU will seek full payment of the outstanding principal balance, or if the property owner cannot pay, they'll enter into new installment payment plans. However, they would not be able to exceed 30 years total because that's set forth in 7-253. But it will charge the delinquent penalty interest rate going forward as is required as a default by the statute. And the second solution is also in one of the ordinances presented tonight. Some of the 131 or so property owners who remain delinquent on the SBA installment payments may be elderly or disabled, and MPU would like to recognize that. If these property owners meet certain age or disability criteria, which are also set forth by statute, they may be able to enter into new payment plans regardless of whether delinquent penalty interest is waived. And this is provided for in General Statute 7-253A. However, the statute is clear that this is only permitted by local option, i.e., by ordinance. The city currently has an ordinance, section 21-3.6, which would allow for elderly property owners to enter into payment plans for SBA payments. It does not currently, to our knowledge, have an ordinance that would allow disabled property owners to enter into payment plans for SBAs. So therefore, NPU asks that the City Council enact an ordinance that would allow disabled property owners who meet statutory criteria as set forth in the property tax statutes to be able to enter into payment plans for these SBA installment payments. And I just would like to emphasize that these are optional payment plans, but they have to be available via ordinance. And that's all we have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Members have questions at this time? Yes, Alderman Singh.
Somebody have a septic system, but on his road, sewer is available, will still be assessed for this, right?
That's correct, Alderman Singh. It's when the sewer is first constructed or extended to the property, regardless of whether it's tied in, whether the property is tied in, it could even have a septic system. The mere fact that it has the ability to tie in allows the assessment because it increases the value. Any buyer would have to take that into account, that they could easily tie into a sewer to the extent it hasn't already been tied in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate the help.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And Chris? Good evening, everyone. If you'd please rise, we'll be led in prayer by Alderman Darrell Wilson.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all our deliberations. Give us the strength and the wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings and keep us faithful to the place trust in us by the citizens of your community. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Would Eagle Scout Jacob Wallace please join me at the dais on the stage? So this young man received his Eagle Scout Award with 2 palms, and he's working on a third recently at Moriarty School. And his project up there has helped to feed hundreds of families throughout the city and the region, actually. He worked directly with Jillian Corbin at the St. Vincent de Paul Soup Kitchen. And I was so impressed by, one, his youth. He's 16 years old. And he has accomplished much that I thought we should have that read into the public record and bring acknowledgement to him, because he's bringing acknowledgement to our city as well. So, Jacob, if you would lead us in our pledge, please.
Everybody please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to read the proclamation that was presented. I'd also like to acknowledge his mom and daddy here and other family members and members of the Scouts and troops that he has worked with in his young time with Scouts. Whereas an Eagle Scout is the highest rank attainable in the Boy Scouts of America, and since its introduction in 1911, the Eagle Scout rank has been earned by more than 2 million young men, with the title of Eagle Scout being held for life, thus giving rise to the phrase, once an Eagle, always an Eagle. And whereas requirements for earning the rank of Eagle Scout include earning at least 21 merit badges and demonstrating Scout spirit, Jacob Wallace has earned 31 merit badges and 2 palms as a member of Troop 4. He has risen through the ranks from a Tiger Scout to an Eagle Scout, and he shows his Scout spirit through his chosen project. He's a 3rd-generation Eagle Scout in his family. And whereas Jacob Wallace is a junior at L.T. Grasso Technical High School, where he's studying drafting and mechanical design with high honors for the last 2 years. Whereas Jacob Wallace's chosen project was the building a compost tumbler for the Troop 4 Norwich Community Garden, whereas Jacob Wallace and Troop 4 maintained the 13 garden beds at John Moriarty Elementary School, and Jacob added 2 more beds this year. Whereas Jacob Wallace honors his community with the growing of vegetables and donating them to St. Vincent de Paul Food Bank. Whereas Jacob Wallace and Troop 4 have given over 240 pounds of food that they grew so they could share the fruits of their labor. Now therefore, I, Mayor Peter Robert Nystrom, and Norwich City Council President Pro Tem Joe DeLucia, on behalf of the Norwich City Council and the citizens of the city of Norwich, do hereby congratulate Jacob Wallace on his impressive record and on his achieving the rank of Eagle Scout with 2 palms. Congratulations once again. Thank you for all you do. Thank you.
Citizen comment, general.
At this time, I'd like to declare it open, citizen comment general. I do have a sign-up list here at this time, and I'm going to start with that. If you did not sign up and you still wish to speak on any item not on an agenda of the council, please just raise your hand. I'll call on you after. Rebecca Pryor? Yes. Yes, right there, please. And make sure you state your name and address for the public record. Thank you.
My name is Rebecca Pryor. I live at 58 Ferguson Avenue in Norwich, Connecticut. I live there with my boyfriend, Michael Wilner, who is the homeowner. He couldn't be here tonight as he was working. And I also had several neighbors who share my concern who are unable to be here tonight. What I wanted to bring up was I heard they're opening up the Business Park Road onto Ferguson Avenue, which has formerly been barricaded off. And we have concerns about safety with through traffic and the extra through traffic that we believe will happen. We have a very narrow road. There's a lot of curves. It's hard enough to see pulling out of my driveway. I always have to be very cautious. And to have more through traffic, I feel, is dangerous. My neighbor across the street, Megan, she couldn't be here because she had to put her son to bed, but she also has concerns about her children playing in her yard with increased traffic. My neighbor next door, Terry, also wanted to be here, but she's recovering from a radiation treatment at the moment. Wasn't feeling well enough to join me. And I believe there are many other residents on our road that share my same concerns. I think the majority of our community has concerns, and I wanted to know what the assessment will be in 6 months to a year, as was stated, to decide if this will remain open. What criteria will you use to judge that?
We listen and take comment. There isn't a back and forth in this part
Okay.
of the meeting, just for informational.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Earl Catella? Is that it?
Hello, my name is Earl Colella. I live at 130 Ferguson Avenue in Norwich. I oppose the opening of the Connecticut Avenue extension onto Ferguson Avenue for several reasons. One, it is a road that has many children, and a lot of people walk up and down that road. The road is very narrow. There are a couple of points in the road you cannot get 2 cars through. There are more places than that if the bus is coming through. Somebody's got to stop, you're going to run into somebody. My concern is that opening that road up will have more people going up and down the road, and it would increase the chances of possibly having a motor vehicle accident, or worse, a child or a pet being run over. To open up that road where it would be acceptable, it would have to be widened in many areas. You need to put yellow line down the road that'll fit 2 vehicles so people stay on the correct side. The other thing is, I read in the paper there was somebody up the road that it would be great going into the industrial park. Well, I go down to the Veterans Rally Point on Stott Avenue, and I'm the adjutant for the VFW post, and I go up to the VFW once or twice a week in the morning to do paperwork, and I go to Veterans Rally Point 4 or 5 times a week. So it would be easier for me, but again, opening that road up, I feel, would be a greater danger, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Jim Langar?
Good evening. My name is Jim Langan, and we live at 185 Ferguson Avenue in Norwich. Reason I'm speaking in front of you folks this evening is to voice our concern to open Connecticut Avenue extension. The main reasons being that Ferguson Avenue has a couple points on the road that are so narrow you have to stop to let a bus go through. There is 0 white lines, yellow lines on the road, the town feels it's necessary to continue having the Connecticut Ave extension open. We need to have vast improvements done to Ferguson. Considering that it's been closed since 1986 for very well thought out reasons, there were some casualties and some major accidents. It had been closed for close to 50 years. It just makes sense to keep it the way it has been. And if it helps the town to plow, they can install larger gates at the end like it's been since I moved in 2009. And then they can be open during the winter time so that the Public Works Department can do their job and clear the roads. Moving forward and having it open to traffic from the industrial park is a big liability on the town, I would think, when an accident does occur, because it's happened in the past, and there's more cul-de-sacs on that road, and there's just be way too much traffic coming through from Wisconsin, Connecticut Ave, and the industrial park. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Carl Williams, please.
Good evening. Carl Williams, 221 Ferguson Avenue, and I'm here to oppose the opening of Connecticut Avenue Extension for a lot of reasons that everybody else is here. I have a little bit more personal reason. My father was on that road twice, and he had 2 head-on collisions from people that came down from the business park. They don't know the road, and we may have a lot of people coming down that road that just don't know it. It's a very windy, curvy road, and it's dangerous. And we have a lot of pedestrians, we have kids, and I've lived up there all my life for 62 years, and I've seen a lot. And it was like a racetrack when people would come out of the business park. They want to get out on West Town Street and get on the highway. And our Public Works Director thinks that it would be he has a different point of view, but I know if you're coming off the highway and you want to get into the business park, either to go to the gym or go to the Navigators or even home, because we have a lot more residents living in the business park. It's become more of a apartment complex than a business park, I think, because we have more people living there that are residents than we do in the building, in the commercial end. It just doesn't make sense. It's been there for 36 years. It's been closed. Make improvements, put a better gate on it like they have on Plain Hill so that it can be opened up for the plows and the public work to do their job. And I think leaving well enough alone is the best thing to do. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Christine Aubrey.
Hi, I'm Christine Aubrey. I live at 193 Ferguson Avenue, and I too oppose the reopening of Ferguson Avenue to the industrial park. It was opened prior to 1986, and living there, the change to our neighborhood was so horrendous. What everyone had to put up with in terms of the traffic, the garbage. And the entire neighborhood pretty much went down to the town hall to a public hearing and voiced their opinions. A lot of it's safety. The road is not safe for increased traffic. The Public Works Director insinuates that people will instead go down Connecticut Avenue. That's not true. Ferguson Avenue is the most direct route down to West Town Street. And anyone who's aware of its opening, when it's really reopened, not for traffic counts, they won't be coming there without a real reopening. People who line up to get to Connecticut Avenue to go up to Dodd Stadium are going to turn up Ferguson Avenue if they know it's open. We're going to be inundated with traffic. And the safety issues are tremendous. I'm a principal engineer with the Department of Transportation. I'm a licensed land surveyor. I deal with road right-of-ways all the time. And I do know, I make decisions all the time about the integrity of the state roads. And I do know that the State Attorney General's office, who I deal with regularly, would never allow this type of reopening onto a neighborhood from an industrial park. This is absurd. Why are we here again? I went to a public works meeting today, and there was not one explanation that provided a reason of necessity to open this road. It's just a whimsical decision. So you spent a lot of money to pave this little section of road. Well, you had to do it. There's a condominium complex on that road. And a lot of those people are going to turn and come down our road too. So a lot of people, not just within our neighborhood, but the people who live in the condominiums, the apartment complexes, who enjoy the quality and tranquility of walking up and down our street with their children and their dogs. I don't know why we're here again. This is all of a sudden, after 36 years, there was a good reason. It was all safety reasons that this road was closed. And now you want to reopen it? Well, there are at least 10 spots on that road that have virtually no sight distance that will lead to many accidents. There was a point where there was talk about reopening it, and the Yantic Fire Department came and talked on our behalf. Prior to the closing, there were many accidents, many serious accidents. After the closing, when the Yantic Fire Department was asked about accidents, they said 0. There were no accidents that they had to respond to. Are we going to go back to them? Are their resources going to be wasted doing that? And are people going to be harmed? And is the city going to have to pay for damages for those accidents because the road is not safe? We need to really think about this. We want our neighborhood intact. We live there. It's an old neighborhood. My house is probably not even 10 feet from the road. These are old colonial houses, a lot of them. We can't handle all this additional traffic. And I live above the point where this road is coming in. It doesn't affect me to the degree it affects my neighbors below, but I don't want it reopened. He said, well, it's for there's 10 houses above that road. It's for those people that we're reopening the road. Well, I know at least 7 of those houses don't want that road reopened. So I don't know who he's talking about here. There's not many of us that want it reopened. I'm sure there's some people, but it's not the majority of us. I'm sorry, that's all I need to say, but I'm totally opposed to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy Tagler-Turn. I have trouble reading the handwriting, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. John, thank you.
John Tagliaferri, 10 Brookside Drive, on the corner of Ferguson and Brookside Drive. I live in the cul-de-sac. Mayor, city council members, we totally oppose the opening of Ferguson Road. My wife's a realtor. We actually picked this area because it was a dead-end road. It was a nice little area. A lot of people on there that walk up and down this road. In the 10 years we've lived there, luckily there's been very few accidents, but I can tell you right now, somebody not within the road who was able to circumnavigate the gates above our road came down. We had a fatality, and the body ended up in my backyard. We now have a paraplegic who came down the hill and ended up not being able to navigate the road, hit a tree, and became paraplegic. And those are 2 in 10 years. Our son was a volunteer fireman with the Yantic Fire Department, ended up getting into an accident in the wintertime responding to a call because the road at the bottom is so narrow that if you added an extra coat of paint to both cars going by, they'd probably scrape each other. It's that narrow. To think that we can sit there and say, oh, we're going to measure how much traffic goes up and down the road is insanity, and it's ludicrous. Even the thought that we're going to know by putting stripes down there and measuring the cars one day, and then next week we're going to open it up. People don't even know. We're already having FedEx trucks move the cones because they all run out at the same time down Connecticut Ave, and some of them have figured out, since they've sort of opened up the Connecticut Ave extension, that they can go down Ferguson. Again, adding any more traffic to that road is crazy. And the people who live on that road and live in those cul-de-sacs off the road, I know that unfortunately gravity will make people speed on top of just people speeding because they speed. But those people already know the curves. They already know how to navigate those curves. They know where they are. And the people who don't are going to absolutely hit somebody head on. The number of near misses, even now, with buses coming up the other way, we have to pull over to the side of the road before we even get out of the complex, before we even get to the Huntington Ave intersection, because there's no room for a bus or a car to get by at the same time. There's been 4 more apartment complexes that have opened up since that road was closed 36 years ago. Why, after 36 years, this seems to be a big deal is beyond any of us. The road backs up to Ferguson from the 395 interchange, and I can tell you, anybody who lives in the Parkwoods complex, 395, 80%, 70 to 80% of the people that want to get to 395 are going to find that a much shorter and easier, quote-unquote, route to go down. Again, insanity. Blind curves, storms, I don't even know. Honestly, it's just the fact that anybody even thinks that this is a brilliant idea. And any of you who haven't run up Ferguson or down Ferguson Road, take a little trip by there. Take time at rush hour. Go down when the buses are there and try to navigate that road down at the bottom of it. Unless you plan on widening it, and it's not an easy widened area to open because you're going to take people's property, or you're going to have to knock down a big, massive stone and concrete wall to open up that bottom area. It's cost prohibitive, number one. And one fatality after everybody on this road has complained and come to the Common Council, it's going to take one lawsuit to make it not worth your while to open up this road. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. That completes the list of those who signed up ahead of time. If you'd like to address the council on any item, this would be the time to do so at this time. This is for non-agenda items. Miss, please. Again, please state your name and address for the record.
I actually believe I am on that list, but I wasn't called. Lynn Stefanovich, 221 Ferguson Avenue. I rent there. And I walk that road every day. And when you walk that road every day, a beautiful residential area, and have to jump into the side bushes because a bus comes by or because cars are coming down there and not looking for you. It is a dangerous S-curve at the bottom. Besides that, if you continue down, 2 cars cannot get through there. One of us is always waiting for other people to come back down. It would be dangerous to open up that Connecticut Avenue extension, have more cars coming down that road with children, people walking. There's a lot of people that walk from the industrial park also. I have met them on that road, and it will be just very dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to the council on non-agenda items at this time? Yes, Danny?
Hello, I'm Dan Ruffo. I live at 105 Ferguson Avenue. I've only been there since 2013, so I don't know the history of when the road was open to traffic on the industrial park, but I can't imagine what that would have been like, because this road is just awful now without the increased traffic. As everybody has told you, it is way too narrow. There's nothing you can do to make that road any better. When I leave my house and look up Ferguson, I have to hope that nobody is coming down that street without their lights on, because there's no lights there. And if their lights aren't on, I'm not going to see them. So I kind of gradually come out and then realize it can't be anybody there. It's just a very unsafe road, and additional traffic would be a joke. Really would be a sad move by the city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Again, does anyone else like to address the council on non-agenda items at this time? Rodney?
Good evening, Rodney Boyd, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. I think the people of Ferguson Avenue have expressed themselves very well. But I'm not here to speak on Ferguson Avenue. The other evening, there were 10, 15 people spoke on runabouts. No one listened. No one listened at all. Now, these runabouts are going to cost us a lot of money. It's going to cost utilities, water, sewer. Let's take a little time and tell the state that they can do their runabouts someplace else. We know the sewer line under this road is going to be repaired at some portion of time. But let's not put a runaround or a runabout in place and force the utilities to replace the water mains. And they will have to be replaced. You cannot run trucks, bulldozers, jackhammers, things like that when you do a runabout. And they will be ruined. I know a lot about sewer lines, water lines. I own a lot of property, and I replace or restore these all the time. So please listen to your business people. For God's sakes, they are the people you are supposed to represent. Now, the only reason the state is putting all this money out for schools, runabouts, and other items is because it's an election year. Had it not been an election year, you wouldn't hear a damn thing about any of it. So listen to your constituents, for God's sakes. That's what you're supposed to be doing when you sit up there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So anyone else like to speak at this time to non-agenda items? I know. Anyone else like to speak at this time? Anyone else like to speak at this time? Seeing none, I declare it closed. Thank you.
Public hearings. Number 1, an ordinance to waive delinquent interest on sewer benefit assessment installment payments to be codified in Chapter 21, Article 1 of the Norwich Code of Ordinances at Section 21-9.
I declare the public hearing to be open at this time. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance, I would invite you to do so. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the public record. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the ordinance at this time? Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the mayor and the council for the time and attention. I'm Alan Pope. I purchased my home, 54 Lambert Drive, on January 2020. I lived there with my wife, Christina, and my son, Larson. During the purchase process, I was made aware of the sewer assessment. However, I was under the mistaken impression that it was part of my property taxes. Last month, 33 months after moving into my home, I received a letter informing me that I owed a significant amount of money and 18% interest. 33 months seems to be an unusual amount of time to let anyone know that they're delinquent on anything, any sort of financial obligation. I immediately called Norwich Public Utilities. I was able to ascertain that there does not seem to be any kind of consistent process to switch the assessment into the new property owner's name when they go to have the utilities changed into their name, which seems to be a significant oversight. If a property owner is already going there to switch the utilities into their name, it seems like there would be a process for looking the property up to see if there's a sewer assessment, then having the sewer assessment changed into their name. That doesn't seem to be happening. I would consider myself a generally responsible person. I've saved every penny I have to pay off my home in the 33 months I've been there. I've always paid my taxes on time. I obtained a construction permit so that I could renovate my home, which needed significant repairs, by myself. And I've tried to do everything right. I'm not the kind of person that would do something like this on purpose, and I feel like it would be unfair to charge me 18% interest or anybody 18% interest over the course of years when the collection and notification process has been so inconsistent. Additionally, I'm not even connected to the sewer. And for those of you that are unaware of the process that it takes to get connected to sewer, I'm sure some of you are, I will soon be paying for my sewer assessment, right? Then I have to pay a plumber probably a significant amount of money to dig up my driveway to connect me to the sewer. And then on top of that, the city charges a $2,500 permit fee, of which I don't quite understand, because we are already paying for the sewer itself with the sewer assessment, and we're already paying to connect to the sewer. So what that $2,500 pays for, I'm not certain, but I do know that it is a barrier for many property owners to connect to the sewer. It's a significant consideration. And in the long run, what this $2,500 permit fee does is it prevents people from connecting to the sewer, it lowers their property value, and it lowers what you can tax people on their homes, really. So it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. That's sort of an aside. At the end of the day, I want to say I'm in favor for the proposal to waive the interest. 33 months I was in my home, but before I received any kind of notification that I owed any kind of money on the sewer assessment. I'd like to thank the council again for their time and the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kelly Hyduck.
Hello, council. Excuse me. I received a sewer assessment several years ago that actually was my mother-in-law's from 2003. My husband passed in 2008, my mother-in-law in 2009. Prior, I paid my mother-in-law $13,000. It was her share from my husband's estate because there was no will. It's really hard. She neglected to pay her sewer assessment, not I. I became the resident of 7 Curran, the home that went to me. To my surprise, as mentioned, I started receiving the sewer assessments with a third interest. I called NPU and spoke to Chris Larose and colleagues awaiting for this meeting. I did not ever receive a notice in my name for at least several years of being at that property. And I understand the lien follows the home. But it really upsets me because this property went to probate. I had a lawyer representing me, Anna Hadjic had a lawyer representing me, and this went through probate. So my question is how did this slip through the hands of probate when town hall is right upstairs? This is accrued to $10,000 and half my income. This will create a hardship for myself. I'm a native of Norwich and on the tax program for the disabled. I'm sure I'm not the only one that is going through this, but all I can say is that it was not my bill to begin with. If it was, I would have paid it. And again, I paid my mother-in-law $13,000. That should have went to her sewer assessment. She was alive and well in 2009. I am for Article 1 of Chapter 21. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Nancy? Is Nancy Insalaco here, Whitford? Okay, how about Peter Insalaco? Rodney Bowie, he left. He had signed up on this as well. Is there anyone else like to speak in favor of this ordinance at this time? Anyone else like to speak in favor at this time? Anyone like to speak in favor at this time? Seeing no one else, is anyone here to speak in opposition to this ordinance? Anyone in opposition? Anyone in opposition? Seeing no one else, I declare the hearing on ordinance number 1 to be closed. Thank you.
Ordinance number 2, an ordinance amending portions of Article 1 of Chapter 21 of the Code of Ordinances, providing for adjustments in sewer assessment payments for disabled property owners.
I declare this hearing to be open at this time. I invite anyone wishing to speak in favor of ordinance. Please speak to the microphone, name and address again for the public record. Anyone would like to speak again on this ordinance for disabled property owners? Yes, please, go right ahead.
Yes, I would like to clarify that was actually what I was here for, was for that
Okay.
ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in favor of this second ordinance at this time? Anyone else like to speak in favor of this ordinance at this time? Anyone like to speak in favor of this ordinance at this time? Seeing no one else, is anyone here in opposition to this ordinance at this time? Anyone in opposition? Anyone in opposition? Seeing no one else, I then declare this hearing to be closed. Thank you.
Number 3, an ordinance amending Section 16-14.2 of the Norwich Code of Ordinances, possession of alcoholic beverages in certain public areas prohibited, to establish the amount of the fine for each offense.
Declare this public hearing to be open and would invite anyone wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance at this time. Please do so, your name and address for the public record.
I'm waiting.
Good evening, Brian Kovalars, 16 Hobart Avenue. I'm in support overall of this. It needs to be modified, though, in my mind, just a little bit. At the very end, it's under the proper authority. In the Code of Ordinances, there is no proper authority. Who is it? I would suggest that it be changed or modified in such a way where perhaps the Norwich Police Department ends up getting the request, which goes to the City Council as a recommendation that would partner with their permission for the overall event. It would be a simple, transparent way of doing it, and if it's codified, then this way there's no confusion at any point in the future. The second thing that I would like to see changed is, why is the dollar number so low? City of Madison has, or Town of Madison, has a similar ordinance, and it's double the amount, $100 there. Well, I'm not sure if many of you are aware, but in the city of Norwich, since the NIP program went into effect with the state, there's been over 870,000 units sold in this community, the 7th highest in the state. If people can afford that number of NIPs in this community, I think that they can afford a fine that takes care of drinking those things in public. But again, just codifying this, I know after talking with Betsy, this would have to go through a second reading or a second publishing, but I think it's worth it. It helps benefit our entire community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone would like to speak in favor of this ordinance at this time? Anyone like to speak in favor of the ordinance at this time? Anyone like to speak in favor at this time? Seeing no one else, is there anyone in opposition to this ordinance as proposed? Anyone in opposition? Is there anyone in opposition? Seeing no one else, I then declare this public hearing to be closed. Thank you.
Second reading and action on the above ordinances previously presented. Ordinance, public hearing number 1, an ordinance to waive delinquent interest on sewer benefit assessment installment payments to be codified in Chapter 21, Article 1 of the Norwich Code of Ordinances at Section 21-9.
Thank you. At this time, I ask for a motion to bring this ordinance to the floor for a vote to also waive the full text and reading at this time. Alderman Wilson, second by Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Alderman Wilson.
So for me, the only thing I want to thank NPU for coming and giving an explanation prior and an informational on the process, or kind of why we are here. I think it's always good to know how solutions come about, and I just want to say thank you for giving us an explanation.
Thank you. Is there further comment? Seeing none, roll call.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould? Yes. Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
And 7-0.
The ordinance is adopted 7-0.
Number 2, an ordinance amending portions of Article 1 of Chapter 21 of the Code of Ordinances, providing for adjustments in sewer assessment payments for disabled property owners.
I'd ask again for a motion to bring this to the floor and waive the full text and reading at this time. Alderman Singh, second Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould? Yes. Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia? Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
The ordinance is adopted 7-0.
Number 3, an ordinance amending Section 13-14.2 of the Norwich Code of Ordinances, possession of alcoholic beverages in certain public areas prohibited, to establish the amount of the fine for each offense.
Thank you. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to bring this to the floor. Alderman Berto, second Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? President Pro Tem. Chief, please.
Good evening.
Hi, Chief. First, the original fine for this was $35 prior to tonight.
This had no fine originally. This was, when it was codified back in 1981 and amended in, I believe, 1984, there was no fine attached to it.
And to the comment made during citizen comment, why 50? Why not 100? Why not any other number?
The drinking in public places, public parks, and school grounds carries a $50 fine, so we thought it was best to mirror that $50, so there'd be some parity in the ordinances. He is, Mr. Koblars is right. I went through many towns and cities, with the exception of New Britain, who had a similarly written ordinance that we had, with no fine established. Most of the other fines were $250 was the high, and most were $99 or less. But when we was talking with Mr. Driscoll, we kind of thought 50 was fair because it mirrored the other already existing ordinance.
And as I understand it, and not to steal any of your thunder, but this decision and that dollar amount was set also in collaboration with the state's attorney's office.
Yeah, a little backstory, excuse me if I digress. back when we had the shooting downtown, we started looking at the quality of life issues downtown. So we started reaching out to some of our partners, St. Vincent de Paul, business owners, and then the courthouse itself. And everyone else came up with, they didn't like the character of the downtown area and what was going on, and just the flavor it was putting forward to Norwich as we're trying to bring businesses in. Tom Griffin retired. We had Mr. Scott, who's a wonderful gentleman. He's our assistant state's attorney. He's in charge of the Norwich court. He brought up an idea of, if we establish the fine, that gives us more leeway, because then an officer, instead of writing a misdemeanor summons, can issue an infraction. The infraction then diverts the load off the court, and they go to the Centralized Infraction Bureau, but it still gives the officer the ability to issue a misdemeanor summons for repeat offenders, or if something would require a little bit more court intervention. So if you get issued an infraction, you can mail the fine in. If that's your choice, you could plead not guilty, but you'll go to a magistrate, not a judge, and you won't be clogging the docket. So it kind of diverts those cases off, and then it gives us a little bit more of ability to prosecute the cases. When judges would see these cases before without the fine attached, they'd often nolly them or issue a $5 or $10 fine, which would not have the effect we were looking for. So with this, we can now have a little bit of skin in the game, and we can have the ability to work with the cases. If people have, the multiple offenders may have 5 or 6 of these, they may be more likely to voluntarily enter a program or have some court-ordered diversionary program that could help them out of the criminal justice system.
So, follow up to that, so as an expanded potential for law enforcement, the fact that we're actually issuing an infraction causes a person to have to produce some sort of identification, correct?
Not necessarily. We don't insist on identification. If the person would refuse to do it, we'd give them the name, take the name they do, because it is a violation. We could take people into custody for that, but that's not been our history.
Yeah, that's not where I'm going with this, but so if a person does produce an identification or is known to the officer or says who they are, and then that person could be run through NCIC, and if there's outstanding warrants for other crimes, maybe even in other communities, this is information, or this is enforcement action that the police department can actually take.
Yes. Yeah, most definitely. Sorry, I didn't know where you were going.
Yeah, so
I get you.
That's where I'm kind of going with
Yeah.
that. So we might have a criminal in our midst who
Frequently, we find with some of the people who are transiting through our community, when we have law enforcement contact with them, like I think I told at Public Safety recently, 2 of the panhandlers we found were actually wanted out of another community. So we had interaction with them. We checked them through the NCIC, and they came back with warrants.
exactly. So maybe the streets get just a little bit safer.
A little bit safer, and we're an expensive operation. I tell this to everyone. People like to see some bang for their buck, and we all live here, and we want to see a better city. The language of the ordinance has been around since 1981. All we're doing is adding the fine, but I think having the option of the infraction allows us to step our enforcement without choking our courts down any more than they already are. So kudos to Mr. Scott. This really was his idea. We're just stealing.
And all this without really violating anybody's constitutional rights.
No, because we're not. We're not taking him into custody. It's a violation. If we issue the infraction, it's a violation. Lesser degree of crime, felony, misdemeanor violation. So it's a mail-in fine, but they still maintain their due process rights. If they think they were unjustly targeted or they were not drinking in public, they would have that option to plead not guilty and take it to a magistrate, just like a speeding ticket.
Perfect. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there further questions at this time for our chief? Thank you very much. Seeing no further comment, roll call.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould? Yes. Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7 to 0.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted 7 to 0.
City Manager's report.
Thank you. This is the city manager's report for September 19th, 2022. Meetings attended were the Southeastern Council of Governments Executive Committee meeting, Connecticut Interlocal Risk Management Agency, NPU City Coordination meeting, interviews for Director of Human Services and Community Development, and contract negotiations with 3 unions. I have been recently appointed by Governor Mahan to the Study of Air Quality in School Buildings Working Group as a representative of the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities. I had an informational presentation by Pullman & Comley, LLC for the City Council, Board of Education, and School Building Committee regarding communications by public officials on referendum items. Norwich Public Works has repurposed the 12 by 16 storage shed, which was no longer needed at the Central Fire Station, to Mohegan Park to provide additional storage space. Currently, the shed is being used to store materials for the disc golf expansion, so the materials are secure and close to the site. Prior to obtaining the shed, Public Works had investigated the possibility of renting a storage container to store the materials. Nearly 4.5 miles of road were chip sealed in August, and paving has been completed on roads on the west side, including Maple Street Extension, Wiley Street, and Johnson Place. Human Services is partnering with Norwich Public Schools to provide after-school programming and parent engagement to elementary and middle school students and guardians at Moriarty, Stanton, and Weckernock Elementary Schools and Kelly Steen Middle School throughout the new school year. Some of the programs being provided through Youth and Family and the Recreation include yoga, monster feelings, financial literacy, and food explorers. Programs for parents will include coverage of topics like healthy eating, anti-bullying, and social media. Disabilities Awareness Week will be held the week of October 10th. There will be a legislative panel discussion on Tuesday, October 11th at the Rose City Senior Center, and a workshop on the American with Disabilities Act on Wednesday, October 12th at the Otis Library. For more information, contact Julie Menders at jmenders@otislibrarynorwich.org. I have attached a fire chief's report from August that was presented at the September Public Safety meeting. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, John. Are there questions of the city manager at this time? Alderman Wilson?
Not really a question, just kudos to the Human Service Department partnering with Norwich Public Schools on programming opportunities. I know it's been one of the things that the city manager has really been honing in on when it comes to collaboration across departments and different entities. And this is a major one that I believe, with what the Youth and Family Services and the Rec Department has to offer, will get more kids involved, more families to be able to access some of the opportunities that both entities and the school have. But also, I think it's one of those parts where when we talk about our schools serving in as more as a community center space, this is it. These are things that they may not be able to do on a large scale if it wasn't for partnerships. So again, a kudos to everyone working together to provide additional opportunities for our kids to explore new things.
Thank you, sir. Further comment? City manager's report? Seeing none. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
Thank you. At this time, I invite members to comment on the 3 resolutions on the council's agenda at this time. Again, please state your name and address for the public record. Is anyone wishing to speak on the 3 resolutions on the agenda this evening?
Good evening. This is Deanna Rhodes. I am the Director of Planning and Neighborhood Services for the City of Norwich, but I'm here tonight to talk to you a little bit about the Norwich Halloween Strut. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about it. It started after a Plan of Conservation and Development meeting, or actually it was before the Plan of Conservation and Development meeting. The chairman of the Commission on the City Plan was there with the Inland Wetlands Chairman, the Assistant City Planner, and the Chief of Police, who were all residents of Norwich, and we were talking about Halloween and the holidays coming up. And I was asked the question by Chairman Manfredi, why don't we have any events for Halloween, and would I be willing to chair something? And I said, well, if everyone here would be a volunteer and you raise your hand, and if you're going to commit to doing this, yeah, sure, I will organize an event. So it started as just kind of a grassroots thing at a planning and meeting, and it grew. We were able to speak to the Chamber of Commerce. We have Angela on the committee. We have Jackie Barbarossa from the City Manager's Office, Jeannie Kuraz from NPU, Regan Miner from the Historical Society, and several other interested people. I don't want to miss anybody. And then I reached out to a few of my friends, including Stacy Gould, who had made a generous donation to the Norwich Events Organization, who is the umbrella organization who has decided to sponsor this event for us. So they are taking care of the insurance coverage for us and helping with the promotions of it. So it's an event that's for families. It's from 6 to 8 p.m. Our goal is to close 2 streets, Bath Street and Broadway, for 2 hours, make it family friendly. A strut is basically strutting around in your costume. It's not a parade, so it gives everybody the ability to walk around. It is an event that's for all ages, so we'll have activities that are specifically for very small children, for anyone to come. We'll have a jack-o'-lantern contest on the front of the City Hall steps. People will bring their own jack-o'-lanterns right before the strut and then take them home with them. There's no cleanup issues, and they'll bring a lighted candle to put in it, and we'll judge that, and they'll be notified on Halloween, which is a couple days later, who the winners are, and we'll have prizes. There will be some food vendors, but they won't be vendors that are selling food that's going to be in our restaurants, because the whole event is based on getting people downtown in the evening to eat and visit our locations downtown. And some of the vacant stores, we hope that they will see them if they're down there and say, that would be a great location for me to put my business. So we're asking the businesses to participate, and again, we've elicited help from the Chamber of Commerce, who's reaching out to them to be open that evening, including places like the coffee shop Cream that normally isn't open on Saturday nights. So this will be an opportunity for them to be open and people to check them out. So I'm going to take just a minute longer if it's okay. Castle Church is going to have sponsor a event where we'll have the Norwich Town, which will be a small village of playhouses, kind of a pocket neighborhood behind their business in their Jubilee courtyard, so children's and little kids and families can come and sit there on hay bales. We're getting donated hay bales from Brandon Hyde. He's donating some hay bales and corn stalks so we can decorate. The strut area is actually bigger than those 2 streets, and it'll encompass most of downtown on some of Main Street and Franklin, but the only portions that'll be closed will be Bath and Broadway. Again, going back to the food, we'll have a couple of food trucks, but there'll be things that are selling like popcorn and cider apples and things that have to do with the fall holidays, but not opportunities for people to eat meals, because we really want to engage them to go into our different restaurants. We have such a diverse choices of restaurants downtown with the Royal Punjab. We have these guys, Billy Wilson's. We have Latin Quarters, and they've all are really excited about being open and serving people that night. And so if you have any questions, I just wanted to let you know that, again, this is going to be a family-friendly event. We're going to try it for 2 hours. We're expecting visitors to come. It's being advertised on New England Halloween Happenings. It's already on their website, CT Visit for the Connecticut tourism, and we're hopefully going to have it more into the local papers, as well as hopefully on the radio stations and television stations. I've already talked to a couple of them. So I hope you come, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you support this event for downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. Is there further discussion on the resolutions on the agenda this evening?
Brian Kovalar, 16 Hobart Avenue. Deanna really said it all. Can't add much to it other than 100% support. It's a brilliant idea, and I'm looking forward to a positive vote and seeing this take place in the city. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Is there further discussion on resolutions before us? Is there further discussion on resolutions before us? Is there further discussion on resolutions before us? Seeing none, thank you both, and I declare the comment period on new business to be closed.
New business resolutions.
Alderman Singh.
Yes, actually, I would like to make a motion under suspension of rules to reconsider new business resolution number 3 from the last council meeting relative to authorize and approve to sign a letter for Phase 1 safety improvement on Route 82.
Thank you. Okay, pursuant to Section 11 and Section 25 of the Rules of Procedure, upon a motion made by Alderman Singh, as stated, he's seeking for reconsideration of the vote held on the council on September 6, 2022. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Motion seconded by Alderwoman Gould. Discussion on the motion to reconsider at this time. Alderman Singh.
So after the vote on this matter, it was brought to my attention that the concern of a potential conflict of interest may exist with my vote. In the spirit of fairness and complete transparency, I have asked the Ethics Commission to review the matter.
Thank you, sir. Is there further comment? Again, this is the motion to reconsider. Roll call then, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia? Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7 to 0.
Motion to reconsider passes 7-0. Alderman Singh, you have
No.
further comment on the Resolution 3 that was just moved to be reconsidered.
Yes, actually, my reason is I want to provide ample time for Ethics Commission to provide their advisory opinion. Therefore, I make a motion to postpone the vote to the second City Council meeting in November, which is November 21st, 2022.
Motion is to postpone action on till November 25th, no,
21st.
21st, thank you. Is there a second? Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion on the motion to postpone action on Resolution 3? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia? Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7 to 0.
A motion to postpone action till November 21st passes 7-0. Thank you. Yes, Alderman Singh.
So I would like to make another motion under the same rules to reconsider new business resolution number 4 from the last council meeting relative to transfer of Crane Avenue from the state of Connecticut to the city of Norwich, because it's kind of related to the same project.
Thank you. The motion is pursuant to Section 11 and Section 25 of the Rules of Procedure made by Alderman Singh to reconsider the vote of the council meeting held on September 6, 2022 concerning a resolution relative to the transfer of Crane Avenue from the state of Connecticut to the city of Norwich. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion on the motion to reconsider? Alderman Singh.
So after my vote on this matter, it was recently actually brought to my attention that there is a concern of a potential conflict of interest that may exist with my vote. So in the spirit of fairness and complete transparency, I have asked the Ethics Commission to review the whole matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the motion to reconsider what was Resolution 4 passed on September 6, 2022 at this time? Seeing none, roll call on the motion to reconsider.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia? Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
The motion to reconsider Resolution 4 passed on September 6, 2022 has been reconsidered in support of the 7-0 vote. Is there further discussion on Resolution 4? Alderman Singh.
Yes. So again, I would like to provide ample time to the Ethic Commission to provide their advisory opinion. Therefore, I make a motion to postpone the vote to the second council meeting in November, which is November 21st, 2022.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion to postpone action on Resolution 4 passed on September 6, 2022 to actually November 21st? Is there further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia? Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
The motion to postpone action till November 21st is adopted 7-0. Thank you.
Number 1, relative to a reappointment as a regular member to the Norwich Housing Authority.
Motion, please, to bring this to the floor. Alderman Wilson, second Alderman Singh. Is there discussion? Alderman Wilson.
Just want to thank Mr. Bergren for continuing to be a part of this community and give his service to us. So just appreciative of him continuing to step forward and be a part of.
Thank you, sir. Is there further discussion? I would like to simply add that I served with Alan, and he was our city manager previously. We were able to bring John here, and Alan is a man of great integrity, a really good and kind man, and to see him continue to contribute to this community, which he has adopted as his own, it's a good feeling. Roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia? Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Resolution adopted 7-0.
Number 2, relative to the Norwich Halloween strut.
Could we have a motion, please, to move resolution forward? Alderman Gould and second Alderman Wilson. Is there further discussion on this issue? Alderwoman Gould, look out.
I can't take anything away from Frank Manfredi for throwing this idea out there, but our director of Planning and Neighborhood Services took this bull by the horns, or this witch by her hat, and went to Norwich Events Organization, got them on board. She has worked tirelessly to get this up and running. We all have to be there on October 29th for the Norwich Halloween Strut. It's going to be a great evening. Everything that Deanna touches turns to gold. So we've got to be there and support that. Everybody's got to be in favor of this resolution. It's a family-friendly event, and can't wait. And wait until you see how she dances. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman Wilson.
Again, I want to give kudos to all that put this idea forward. Ms. Rose for your taking the leadership, Ms. Alderwoman Gould for also being a part of this process. These are the things that we're looking for to make downtown vibrant on a time when we have something to celebrate, but also this is the key to helping market our businesses at a small scale. This is small, but it's a mighty effort, and I'm excited, to see something new happen downtown for Halloween. But also, again, it's the part going back to collaboration. all these organizations working together to shine a light on what great things Norwich has. So I want to give kudos to all that are involved in this, and encourage everyone to continue to come out and be a part of it.
Thank you, sir. Is there further discussion? Alderman Singh.
So I also want to thank Deanna and everybody who is on board with this. I think it's a great idea. Norwich was known for roses, but now I think Norwich will be known for Norwiches as well. So make sure we have some roses there as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is there further discussion? Just a recommendation, better pick your costumes early. Rumor has it the mayor may show up as a minion once again, like he did in 2015. Roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia? Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Resolution adopted, 7-0.
Number 3, to authorize and direct City Manager John Salamone to negotiate and enter into lease amendment with Crown Castle for the expansion of its leasehold footprint.
Motion, please, to bring this forward. Alderman Wilson, second. Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia? Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Resolution is adopted, 7-0.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Alderwoman Gould, second. Alderwoman Berto. Is there? Nope, there's not. Roll call.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Berto? Oh, yes. Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia? Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
7-0.
Motion to adjourn passes 7-0. Have a great evening. Drive safe.